I haven't had sex in months, the giant Apache girl tells Shy Rancher. The rancher named Tom had always lived a quiet life. His ranch was tucked away in the southwestern hills, far from the noise and bustle of the town. He liked it that way. His days were predictable, and that predictability comforted him. He woke up early every morning, tended to his animals, repaired fences, and spent hours walking through the vast fields that stretched beyond his property. To an outsider, it might seem lonely, but Tom found peace in his solitude. The gentle rhythm of life on the ranch was all he had ever known. Tom was not a man of many words. People in town often described him as shy and reserved, almost invisible in social gatherings. He didn't mind that label. Parties, festivals, and busy markets made him uncomfortable. He preferred the quiet mornings when the sun rose over the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, or the cool evenings when he could sit by the porch with a cup of coffee, listening to the wind rustle through the grass. Life was simple, and that simplicity suited him perfectly. One spring afternoon, everything began to change. Tom had just finished repairing the broken fence along the northern pasture when he noticed someone walking down the dirt road toward his ranch. At first he thought it was a traveler looking for directions, but as the figure drew closer he realized it was a woman. And not just any woman. She was tall, taller than anyone he had ever met, with long dark hair that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Her presence was striking, and there was a confident grace in the way she walked. She carried herself with a sense of pride, but there was also warmth in her smile. The woman stopped at the edge of his property and looked around as if taking in the view. Tom, feeling unexpectedly nervous, stepped out of the barn, wiping his hands on a cloth. He didn't know what to say.
Hello?
He managed, his voice quieter than he intended.
Hi. She replied, her voice clear and friendly.
Is this your ranch? Tom nodded. Yes, it is. I'm Tom. I'm Kaya, she said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm but not overwhelming, and Tom felt a strange mixture of surprise and comfort. There was something about her that made him feel both cautious and curious at the same time. Kaya looked around the ranch with genuine interest. It's beautiful here, she said. I can see why someone would want to live away from the town. It's quiet. That's the main thing I like about it. Kaya laughed softly, a sound that was easy and inviting. Quiet is good. I like quiet too sometimes. But I also like people. I think it's nice when you get both. Peace and company. Tom smiled awkwardly. He wasn't used to people, especially women, showing interest in his life or his home. Most visitors barely stayed long enough to ask for directions before moving on. Kaya, however, seemed genuinely interested in the ranch itself, in the work he did, and even in the small details of his daily routine. For the next hour, Kaya wandered around, asking questions about the animals, the crops, and the routines of the ranch. She listened intently as Tom explained the chores he did every day. She seemed fascinated by everything, from the way he cared for the horses to the way he fixed fences using simple tools. Tom found himself relaxing. He hadn't realized how much he had missed having someone to talk to, someone who didn't rush him or judge him for his quiet ways. When it came time for Kaya to leave, she hesitated. I hope I'm not bothering you, she said, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. I wanted to see the ranch and meet you. I like meeting people who live differently. It's interesting. You're not bothering me, Tom said quickly. He realized that he didn't want her to leave just yet. You can come by any time. I don't get many visitors, so you're welcome any time. I might take you up on that, Tom. It's rare to find someone who lives so peacefully. Most people are always in a rush. After she left, Tom felt a strange emptiness, as if a window had opened in his life and she had only briefly glanced inside. For days he thought about her. He wondered about her life, her stories, and why someone like her had come to his quiet ranch. There was something about Kaya that was impossible to ignore. She was bold, confident, and full of life, and yet she had treated him like an equal, with respect and curiosity. Over the following weeks, Kaya began to visit more often. Sometimes she came to help with chores, offering to feed the animals or mend fences alongside him. Other times, she simply sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, sharing small stories about her life growing up in a nearby town. Tom found himself looking forward to her visits. He would wake earlier than usual, finish his work a bit faster, just so he could have a few moments with her before the day passed. Despite her confidence, Kaya had moments of vulnerability. She would talk about how she often felt out of place in town, how people expected her to be loud or overly social because of her appearance, but she preferred meaningful conversations over casual chatter. Tom listened quietly, offering the rare comfort of understanding without judgment. In these moments, he realized that he wasn't the only one who sometimes felt alone in the world. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Kaya turned to him with a smile tinged with something more personal. "You know, Tom, I haven't had much company lately. Not in a long time. It makes days feel longer than they should be." Her words were straightforward but gentle, revealing a depth of loneliness he had never spoken about himself. He didn't know what to say at first. For a moment, the quiet of the ranch seemed louder than ever, filled with the weight of unspoken emotions. I understand," he said finally, his voice low but steady. He didn't need to explain everything. Sometimes, just acknowledging the feeling was enough. Kaya nodded, appreciating his honesty. That evening marked a subtle turning point in their relationship. There was an unspoken understanding between them now, a recognition of shared solitude and a growing trust. Tom began to realize that his quiet life didn't have to be so isolated. There were people, like Kaya, who could bring light into his world without disturbing the peace he cherished. As the days turned into weeks, their bond strengthened. They spent time together tending the fields, repairing the fences, and caring for the animals. Tom found himself opening up in ways he hadn't before, sharing stories of his childhood, his dreams, and even the moments he regretted. Kaya listened, never rushing, never judging, always encouraging. Tom also noticed that Kaya had a way of seeing beauty in the simplest things. She would stop to admire a blooming cactus, laugh at the antics of the chickens, or marvel at the colors of the sunset. Her presence made him more aware of the world around him, reminding him that life, even in its quietest moments, could be full of wonder. By the end of that first season, Tom and Kaya had established a rhythm together. Their days were no longer just about chores and routine, they were about companionship, shared laughter, and the quiet comfort of someone who truly understood you. Tom, the shy rancher who had once preferred solitude, found himself waiting for her visits with anticipation. Kaya, the bold and confident woman, found solace in his steadiness and sincerity. The ranch remained peaceful, but now it was filled with a new kind of life. A life of connection, understanding, and the gentle warmth that comes from unexpected friendship. For Tom, this was just the beginning, though he did not know how far this connection would go. What he did know was that his world had expanded in ways he never imagined, all because a stranger had walked down the dirt road and into his life. After that first spring, Tom and Kaya's friendship began to grow in ways neither of them had expected. The initial awkwardness had faded, replaced by a comfortable rhythm that made even the simplest moments feel meaningful. Kaya's visits became more frequent. Sometimes she arrived early in the morning, helping Tom with chores. Another time she simply came to sit on the porch, watching the sun rise over the hills. Tom had never imagined having someone like Kaya around. Her energy was different from anything he was used to. She laughed easily, spoke with confidence, and carried herself in a way that made people notice her. Yet despite her boldness, she had a gentle way of understanding him. She never pressured him to talk more than he wanted, but she listened when he chose to open up. Tom found himself sharing thoughts and feelings he had kept to himself for years. One morning, Kaya arrived at the ranch with a basket full of fresh fruit from her town. "I thought you might like these," she said, smiling as she handed it to him. "I know you're busy, so consider it a little gift from the market." Tom thanked her quietly, feeling a warmth he wasn't used to experiencing. "You didn't have to," he said, though his voice carried more appreciation than his words suggested. Kaya shrugged lightly. "I wanted to. You've been kind enough to let me into your life, and I thought it was the least I could do." That day, they worked together in the fields, tending to the crops and checking the fences. Kaya was surprisingly good with her hands, and Tom found himself watching how carefully she handled the tools and plants. There was a natural ease to her movements, and he admired her patience and skill. For once, he didn't feel nervous around her. He felt connected. As they paused to rest under the shade of a large oak tree, Kaya sat on the grass and leaned back, looking at the sky.
"It's peaceful here,"
she said softly.
"I can see why you like living this way. There's something about being close to nature that makes everything else fade away."
Tom nodded.
"It's quiet. It's quiet."
Simple. Life is easier when you don't have to worry about what everyone else thinks. Kaya turned to him, her eyes bright. I've always envied that.
People in my town are always rushing, always talking, always needing something. It's exhausting. Sometimes I wish I could just slow down, like you.
Tom smiled, feeling an unexpected sense of pride. He had never considered his lifestyle special, but hearing Kaya say this made him see it in a new light.
It's not for everyone, he admitted. It takes patience and a willingness to be alone sometimes.
But I like it. As the days passed, their conversations deepened. Kaya began to share stories from her childhood, memories of growing up in her community, lessons she had learned from her family, and moments of joy and sadness. Tom listened quietly, occasionally asking questions, careful not to intrude, but eager to understand her better. In return, he told her about his life on the ranch, his father who had taught him everything he knew about farming, and the dreams he had once held as a young man. One afternoon, while they were repairing a fence, Kaya suddenly paused and looked at him thoughtfully.
You know, Tom, I haven't had much company lately. Not just visitors, but someone who truly listens and understands. It's been plain lonely.
Tom's heart tightened. He knew the feeling all too well. For years, he had kept his life private, convinced that no one could understand the quiet world he lived in. And yet, here was Kaya, admitting her loneliness in a way that felt raw and honest.
I understand,
he said quietly, pausing to hammer a post into place.
I've spent most of my life alone.
It's not always easy, but sometimes it feels safer that way. Kaya smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes.
I know. I think that's why I like coming here.
I can be myself without worrying about what people think. And I like talking to you, even if you're quiet.
It's different. Comforting.
That evening, they sat together on the porch, watching the sun set over the hills. The sky was painted with shades of orange and purple, and the air was filled with the gentle sounds of nature. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the soft hum of insects. Kaya leaned back, her long hair catching the last rays of sunlight. You know, Tom,
I feel like I can breathe here. I don't have to put on a mask or pretend to be someone I'm not.
Tom nodded, understanding more than she realized. That's how I feel too. Most people don't understand the quiet life. They think it's boring. But it's not. There's peace here.
And company like yours makes it better.
Over the next few weeks, their bond continued to strengthen. They shared simple meals, worked side by side in the fields, and even explored the surrounding hills together. Tom showed Kaya his favorite spots, hidden groves where wildflowers bloomed, a small stream where the water was always cool, and a hill that offered the best view of the sunrise. Kaya, in turn, shared stories about her travels, her friends, and the traditions of her community. One afternoon, while resting near the stream, Kaya spoke softly.
You know, Tom, it's strange. I've met many people in my life, but I've rarely felt this connection. I don't mean just friendship, but something deeper.
A feeling that someone truly sees you. Tom was silent for a moment, unsure how to respond.
He had never been good at expressing his emotions, but he felt the truth in her words. I feel the same, he admitted finally.
You make me feel understood.
And I appreciate that more than I can say. Kaya smiled, reaching out to touch his hand briefly. A simple gesture, but one that carried warmth and trust. I'm glad, she said softly.
It's rare to find someone like that. As spring turned to early summer, their friendship became a constant in both of their lives. Kaya's visits brought joy and energy to the ranch,
while Tom's steadiness provided a sense of stability she hadn't realized she needed. They celebrated small victories together, fixing a broken fence, harvesting a crop, or caring for a sick animal, and found comfort in sharing the simple moments of life. Yet, there was also a growing awareness of something unspoken between them. Neither of them rushed to define it, but both could feel it. A quiet tension, a subtle closeness that went beyond friendship. It was a feeling that made their hearts beat a little faster when they were near each other, a warmth that lingered long after Kaya had left for the day. Despite this, they remained patient, allowing their relationship to grow naturally. There were no grand declarations or dramatic moments, only the steady accumulation of shared experiences, laughter, and understanding. They had discovered a rhythm, a balance between independence and companionship, and both found themselves looking forward to each day with anticipation. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the stars, Kaya turned to Tom and said softly, "You know, I think I've been waiting for something like this for a long time. Someone who doesn't judge me, who listens, who understands." Tom nodded, feeling a lump in his throat. "I think I've been waiting too," he admitted quietly. "It's hard to find someone who gets you, but you do." They sat in comfortable silence, the night sky stretching endlessly above them. The stars seemed brighter than ever, as if reflecting the connection they had found. It was a bond built on trust, understanding, and shared moments, a bond that neither of them fully understood yet, but both cherished deeply. By the end of that early summer, Tom and Kaya had become inseparable in their own quiet way. They had discovered the value of companionship, the beauty of shared silence, and the power of simply being present for one another.
Their friendship was no longer just a casual connection. It was a lifeline, a source of joy and comfort that neither of them could imagine living without. And yet, there was still so much to discover. So many stories to share, so many moments to experience together. The ranch remained peaceful, the fields golden under the summer sun, and the nights filled with the gentle sounds of nature. But for Tom and Kaya, the true peace was in the knowledge that they had found someone who understood them, a rare and precious gift that would continue to grow with each passing day. By the time midsummer arrived, Tom and Kaya had settled into a comfortable rhythm on the ranch. Each day brought a new blend of work, conversation, and quiet companionship. The routines of the ranch, feeding the animals, repairing fences, tending to crops, were no longer solitary tasks for Tom. Kaya's presence brought energy, laughter, and warmth to even the most ordinary chores. One late afternoon, as they finished checking the fences along the northern pasture, Kaya suddenly paused and leaned against a post. She looked out over the rolling hills, her eyes soft with thought. "Tom," she said quietly, "I want to tell you something." Tom glanced at her, sensing that whatever she was about to say was important. He didn't interrupt, simply nodded for her to continue. "It's about how I feel," she said. She hesitated for a moment, as if searching for the right words. "You've probably noticed that I spend a lot of time on my own. And I've realized that I haven't really connected with anyone for a long time. Not like this, anyway." Tom's heart skipped a beat. He could sense the vulnerability in her voice, the honesty that came from admitting something personal and intimate. He knew that what she was saying went beyond casual friendship. Kaya took a deep breath, then smiled faintly, almost nervously. "I feel lonely sometimes. Not just physically, but emotionally. I mean, I haven't had someone to really talk to, someone who truly listens, in months. And now, being here, with you, it feels different. It feels safe." Tom's chest tightened. Her words were gentle, but they carried weight. He understood the feeling all too well. For years, he had kept to himself, believing that solitude was safer than reaching out to others. Yet here was Kaya expressing the same longing for connection that he had silently felt for so long. "I know exactly what you mean," Tom said quietly, his voice steady despite the flutter in his chest. "I've lived most of my life alone, too. I didn't realize how much I missed having someone who understands you, who listens, who doesn't judge.
Kaya turned to him, her eyes reflecting gratitude and relief. "It's nice to hear that," she said softly. "It's nice to know I'm not the only one." For a few moments they stood in silence, the warm sunlight bathing the pasture in golden hues. The animals grazed peacefully nearby, oblivious to the quiet intimacy between the two humans watching the horizon. It was a simple scene, yet it carried an unspoken depth, a shared acknowledgement of the loneliness they had both felt and the comfort they now found in each other. As the days passed, their conversations became more personal and heartfelt. They talked about dreams, regrets, fears, and joys. Tom shared stories of his childhood, moments of struggle, and memories of his family. Kaya spoke of her life growing up in her town, the challenges she faced as a tall and confident woman, and the small moments of happiness she treasured. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned pink and orange, Kaya asked, "Tom, do you ever feel like people just don't see you? Like they only see what they expect, not who you really are?" Tom nodded, understanding immediately. "All the time, people see me as quiet, shy, boring. They don't realize that I have thoughts, feelings, experiences that matter." "Most of the time, it's easier to stay invisible." Kaya smiled softly. "That's how I feel too. But here, with you, it's different. You see me, not what people expect me to be." It was rare to be seen, truly seen by another person. And here was Kaya, someone who looked past appearances, past assumptions, to the person beneath. Over time, their friendship began to grow into something deeper. It wasn't sudden or dramatic. There were no grand declarations or awkward confessions. Instead, it was in the small gestures. The way Kaya would bring fresh bread from the town when she visited. The way Tom always saved her favorite spot on the porch. The way they laughed together at small accidents in the fields. One humid afternoon, while taking a break from repairing a fence, Kaya rested her hand on Tom's shoulder. It was a light, unassuming touch, yet it carried a sense of trust and affection. Tom looked at her, feeling a gentle warmth he hadn't experienced before. "You know," Kaya said with a soft laugh, "I think I'm getting used to this. To being around someone who actually listens. To being understood."
You don't have to say it, Tom replied, smiling faintly. I already know.
Their connection grew stronger through shared experiences. They faced small challenges together, helping an injured horse, repairing a fence in a sudden storm, or figuring out a way to save a failing crop. In each challenge, they discovered not only each other's strengths, but also their vulnerabilities. Tom learned that Kaya, for all her confidence, had moments of doubt and fear. Kaya discovered that Tom, for all his shyness, had quiet courage and wisdom that could guide them through difficult situations. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the warm night air, Kaya turned to Tom and said, "You know, I think I've been afraid of being close to someone, afraid they'll leave or judge me or misunderstand me. But here, with you, I feel safe."
"I feel like I can be myself."
I feel the same, he said softly. It's hard to explain, but being with you,
"It feels right. Comfortable."
"Real." Kaya smiled, squeezing his hand lightly. "I never thought I'd find that on a ranch in the middle of nowhere," she said, her voice filled with quiet amusement. Tom chuckled.
Neither did I, but sometimes life surprises you in the best ways.
As the weeks turned into months, their bond deepened. They spent long evenings sharing stories by the fire, quiet mornings tending to the animals, and lazy afternoons exploring the hills and streams around the ranch. Every moment together strengthened their connection, not through grand gestures, but through trust, understanding, and emotional closeness. One particularly hot afternoon, they rested under the shade of an oak tree, sipping water and watching the cattle graze. Kaya spoke first, her voice thoughtful.
"Tom, do you ever wonder why people are so afraid to be vulnerable? To share their true selves with someone else?"
Tom considered her question carefully. "I think it's because it makes us feel exposed," he said slowly. "But vulnerability is also what allows real connection. You can't truly know someone without it. Kaya nodded, her eyes reflecting the sunlight filtering through the leaves.
I think I understand that now. Being with you, I feel like I can be vulnerable.
And it doesn't scare me. It feels freeing. Tom smiled quietly, feeling the same way. In Kaya's presence, he could let down the walls he had built around himself for years. He could speak openly, laugh freely, and share feelings he had kept hidden for so long. And he sensed that Kaya felt the same. She could show her true self without fear of judgment. Their friendship had grown into a partnership, though neither of them labeled it as such. It was a connection built on trust, mutual respect, and emotional intimacy. They were learning to lean on each other, to support each other through small victories and minor setbacks, and to celebrate the quiet joys of everyday life. One evening, as the sky darkened and stars began to appear, Kaya said softly, "You know, I think I've been waiting for someone like you for a long time. Someone who listens, who understands, who doesn't try to change me. Someone who sees me." Tom felt a lump in his throat. "I've been waiting too," he admitted quietly.
I didn't know it till you came here, but I've needed someone like you.
They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the night sky stretch endlessly above them. The ranch was peaceful, filled with the gentle sounds of nature, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of an owl, the soft hum of crickets. And in that quiet they both felt a deep sense of connection, a bond that had grown stronger through shared trust, honesty, and the courage to be vulnerable.
By the end of the summer, it was clear that Tom and Kaya's relationship had evolved.
It was no longer simply friendship. It was emotional intimacy, built gradually and carefully. They had learned to lean on each other, to trust one another, and to find joy in the quiet moments of life together. And though neither of them fully understood what the future might hold, they knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. As summer slowly gave way to the golden days of early autumn, life on the ranch seemed almost perfect. Tom and Kaya had grown close, their days filled with shared work, conversation, and quiet companionship. Yet, even in the peaceful rhythm of ranch life, challenges began to creep in. It started with small things. Townspeople began to notice Kaya's frequent visits to Tom's ranch.
Some were curious, some were skeptical, and others whispered behind closed doors. Rumors started circulating, some harmless, some less so.
A few neighbors questioned why a confident, independent woman spent so much time with a quiet, reserved rancher who kept mostly to himself. Kaya, who was used to facing judgment and misunderstanding in her town, brushed off most of the whispers with her usual confidence.
Let them talk, she said one afternoon while helping Tom repair a section of fence. We know the truth.
That's all that matters.
Tom, however, felt the weight of the gossip more than he expected. He had always avoided attention and prided himself on a quiet life. The idea that people might be judging him or questioning his friendship with Kaya made him uneasy. "I just wish people wouldn't assume things," he said quietly. Kaya smiled gently, placing a reassuring hand on his arm.
They will. People always do.
But their opinions don't define us. We know who we are, and that's what matters.
Even with Kaya's encouragement, Tom couldn't help but feel the pressure. He worried that the rumors might affect their friendship or create tension.
So he decided to focus on the work at hand, pouring his energy into the ranch while finding small moments to spend with Kaya, away from prying eyes.
One of the cows had gone missing from the northern pasture. Tom and Kaya spent hours searching, calling out across the rolling hills.
By late afternoon, they found the animal tangled in a fallen fence. It had been struggling for some time, exhausted and frightened. Together, they carefully freed it, bandaging minor injuries and calming the animal with gentle voices. That day, as they sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the hills, Kaya spoke softly.
You know, Tom, life isn't always as peaceful as we want it to be. Even here, even with everything we do right, things can go wrong.
Tom nodded, understanding.
That's true. But that's why it's important to have someone you can count on, someone who will face the problems with you, not run away.
Kaya reached out and touched his hand. I'm glad I have you, she said quietly. And I hope you feel the same about me. I do, Tom replied, squeezing her hand gently. More than I can say. Despite the challenges and small-town gossip, they continued to support each other, learning more about themselves and each other with every shared experience. They discovered that partnership wasn't about perfection. It was about trust, communication, and patience. Then came a misunderstanding that tested their bond in a new way. One afternoon, while Tom was in town picking up supplies, he overheard a group of neighbors commenting about Kaya. They spoke as if she were leading him into trouble, questioning why she spent so much time at his ranch. Tom felt a mixture of anger and embarrassment, wishing he could defend their friendship. When he returned to the ranch, he tried to hide his frustration, but Kaya noticed.
Something's wrong, she said softly.
Tom sighed, unsure how to explain the conversation without sounding bitter or defensive. People in town, they talk. They don't understand us.
They think there's something wrong with our friendship.
Kaya smiled gently, taking his hand.
Let them think what they want. We know the truth. And we know what we mean to each other. That's what matters.
Despite her reassurance, Tom realized that the incident had affected him more than he expected. He had always valued the quiet, peaceful life of the ranch, free from judgment and attention. Facing suspicion from neighbors, even mild, made him feel vulnerable in a way he hadn't anticipated. Over the next few days, they both reflected on their friendship and their individual growth. Tom realized that his fear of judgment had sometimes held him back from fully expressing himself. Kaya, on the other hand, saw that her boldness had not always accounted for the subtler ways others might perceive her actions. Together, they learned the importance of patience and understanding, not just with each other, but also with the world around them. One afternoon, as they worked together to repair a section of the barn roof, Kaya paused and looked at Tom.
You know, life will always have challenges, she said thoughtfully. People will always talk. Things will sometimes go wrong. But I think what makes a difference is how we handle it. We face it together. That's what matters.
Tom nodded, appreciating her words. You're right.
I've realized that I don't have to face everything alone anymore. And with you here, I feel stronger than I have in years.
Their relationship continued to grow, strengthened by shared challenges and mutual support. They learned to communicate openly, sharing their fears and uncertainties without judgment. They celebrated victories no matter how small and found joy in the simple moments, watering the crops, feeding the animals, or watching the stars appear in the night sky. As autumn deepened, a new set of challenges emerged. A sudden storm swept through the region, bringing heavy rains and strong winds. The ranch, though sturdy, faced damage.
Trees fell, fences were broken, and the fields were flooded. Tom and Kaya worked tirelessly through the storm and its aftermath, helping each other stay calm and focused.
During one particularly long night, as they repaired a broken fence in the pouring rain, Kaya leaned against Tom for a brief moment, shivering. I don't know what I'd do without you, she said softly, her voice barely audible over the wind.
You don't have to find out, Tom replied, holding the tool steady in one hand while wrapping the other around her shoulder.
We're in this together, always. The storm passed, leaving the ranch battered but intact. That night, as they cleaned up and tended to the animals, both felt a deep sense of accomplishment. They had faced adversity together and emerged stronger, their bond more resilient than ever. Through these trials, Tom began to notice subtle changes in himself. He was more confident, more willing to express his feelings, and more comfortable navigating the opinions of others. Kaya, too, had grown. She learned the value of patience, listening, and empathy, realizing that strength wasn't only about boldness, but also about understanding and supporting others. One quiet evening, after a particularly long day of repairing storm damage, they sat on the porch with warm mugs of tea, watching the sun set in brilliant shades of orange and gold. Kaya turned to Tom and said softly, You know, life is unpredictable.
Challenges will always come, but I feel like we can face anything now as long as we have each other.
Tom nodded, feeling a surge of emotion.
I feel the same. I never imagined my life could be this full. This connected.
But with you here, it is. For the first time, they both realized that their bond had grown beyond mere friendship. It was a relationship built on trust, shared experiences, and emotional intimacy.
It wasn't defined by grand gestures or dramatic moments. It was steady, enduring, and profoundly real. As the golden days of autumn continued, they continued to face challenges together, both large and small. Neighbors' whispers faded into background noise, storms came and went, and life on the ranch continued its rhythm. Yet through it all, Tom and Kaya had found something rare and precious, a connection that could withstand the trials of life, a partnership built on trust, understanding, and unwavering support. By the end of Part 4, it was clear that Tom and Kaya had grown individually and together. They had faced external pressures, minor conflicts, and unexpected hardships, yet their bond had only strengthened. They had learned the value of patience, the importance of communication, and the profound power of companionship. And though life on the ranch would continue to bring challenges, both knew that as long as they faced them together, they could overcome anything. Their friendship had transformed into something enduring, a steady foundation upon which they could build the rest of their lives.
As autumn slowly turned into early winter, the ranch seemed to breathe with a quiet, steady rhythm. Tom and Kaya had weathered the storms of the season, both literally and figuratively, and had come through stronger, their bond deeper than either had imagined. The work continued as always, feeding animals, repairing fences, chopping firewood, and tending to the land. But now, every task carried a sense of shared purpose. They had learned to rely on each other in ways that went beyond simple friendship. One crisp morning, the two of them stood at the edge of the pasture, the air filled with the scent of pine and frost. Kaya pulled her jacket tighter around her shoulders and smiled at Tom.
You know, it's funny. A year ago, I would never have imagined I'd be spending my days out here, helping a rancher take care of a place like this.
Tom chuckled softly, adjusting his hat against the low winter sun.
And I never imagined I'd enjoy having someone around all the time.
I thought I liked being alone, but it turns out I didn't know what I was missing. Kaya laughed lightly. I'm glad you realized it.
And I'm glad I found this place. And you. Her voice was gentle, filled with warmth and sincerity. Their days continued to flow naturally, filled with both work and quiet moments of connection. Some mornings they would share coffee on the porch, watching the frost glisten in the early sunlight. Other times they would walk through the fields together, talking about their dreams, past experiences, and hopes for the future. Each conversation strengthened the bond between them, building a foundation of trust, understanding, and deep emotional intimacy. One day, while repairing the barn roof together, Kaya paused to look out over the fields. "Tom," she said, "I've been thinking."
We've been through so much this year. Storms, work, rumors. Yet here we are, stronger, together. I think that's something special. Tom nodded, hammering the last nail into place before setting down his tools.
"It is special," he agreed. "We've learned how to face challenges together, and that makes everything else easier."
We've grown, not just as friends, but as people.
Kaya smiled, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. I feel like I've finally found a place where I belong.
Not just on the ranch, but with you. I've never felt this understood, this safe, with anyone before. Tom's chest tightened.
He had felt the same way for months, but had never put it into words. "I feel the same," he said quietly.
Being with you, it feels right, comfortable.
"I trust you in a way I've never trusted anyone before." Over the next few weeks, they continued to solidify their partnership.
They celebrated small victories, like a successful harvest or the repair of an old fence, and found joy in everyday routines. But they also made time for moments that strengthened their connection on a deeper level.
Sometimes it was as simple as sharing a meal they cooked together or sitting quietly under the stars, letting the night air carry their thoughts and reflections.
One particularly quiet evening, as the sky turned shades of deep purple and orange, Kaya and Tom sat on the porch with steaming mugs of tea. Kaya spoke softly, her voice almost a whisper against the stillness of the ranch.
You know, Tom, I think we've learned something important this year.
Life isn't just about surviving, it's about connection. It's about trust, understanding, and being there for someone else. That's what makes it meaningful. Tom nodded, staring out over the fields. I've realized that too. I used to think I was fine being alone, but I was missing something. And now I know what it feels like to truly belong somewhere. To someone.
Kaya's eyes softened, and she reached for his hand. I feel the same way.
You've become a part of my life I can't imagine living without. As winter began to settle in, bringing cold nights and crisp mornings, the ranch became a place of comfort and warmth, not just in the physical sense, but emotionally. Tom and Kaya had created a shared life built on respect, understanding, and quiet love. They had discovered the power of companionship and the joy of mutual support, finding happiness in both the small and significant moments of their daily lives. Even the animals seemed to sense the harmony between them.
The horses responded to their care with calm trust. The chickens wandered freely without worry, and the cattle grazed peacefully in the pastures. Everything on the ranch reflected the balance and connection that had grown between Tom and Kaya over the months.
One evening, as snow began to lightly dust the ground, Kaya and Tom stood together at the edge of the pasture, watching the sun sink below the distant hills. The colors of the sunset reflected in the snow, painting the world in shades of gold and pink.
Kaya leaned lightly on Tom's shoulder. I think this is the first winter I'm not afraid of being alone, she said softly. Tom smiled, wrapping an arm around her. And I've never felt more at peace.
I used to think quiet meant lonely, but now I know it can mean togetherness with the right person. They spent the rest of the evening preparing the ranch for the coming snow. They stacked firewood carefully, checked fences, and ensured the animals had everything they needed. Even in the midst of hard work, there was a lightness in their movements, a shared sense of purpose that made every task easier. Later that night, after the chores were done, they sat together by the fire in the cozy warmth of the ranch house. The flames danced across the room, reflecting in their eyes.
Kaya reached for Tom's hand once again.
You know, I think this is how life is meant to be lived, she said quietly.
With someone who understands you, who supports you, who makes even the hardest days brighter.
Tom nodded, feeling a deep sense of contentment.
I couldn't agree more.
I've spent years thinking I needed nothing, but I realize now I needed someone like you. Someone to share life with. Someone to make it fuller, richer, and more meaningful. As the winter settled in, their relationship continued to grow in quiet but profound ways. They had reached a level of understanding that didn't require words for every thought or feeling. They knew each other's rhythms, preferences, and moods. They could communicate with a glance, a smile, or a touch.
Their connection was no longer just emotional. It was a deep partnership, a shared life that was built on years of trust, patience, and mutual respect. One particularly snowy morning, Kaya and Tom took a break from feeding the animals and stood at the edge of the pasture, the world around them blanketed in white. Kaya smiled and breathed in the crisp air.
I feel like we've built something lasting here. Something that can withstand anything.
Tom looked at her, warmth spreading through his chest despite the cold.
We have.
And it's more than I ever imagined. I've never felt this happy or this complete. You've made me realize what life can really be when you share it with someone you trust and care for. Kaya leaned against him, her head resting lightly on his shoulder. I feel the same. We've grown together, learned from each other, and supported each other through everything. I can't imagine life without you now. As the days passed and winter deepened, Tom and Kaya continued their routines with a sense of balance and harmony. They faced challenges, celebrated successes, and found joy in the quiet beauty of the ranch. And through it all, they knew that what they had built together was rare,
a true partnership that combined friendship, emotional intimacy, and deep mutual respect. By the end of Part 5, it was clear that Tom and Kaya had achieved a sense of fulfillment and happiness. Their journey had taken them from cautious friendship to deep emotional connection, through challenges, personal growth, and shared experiences. The ranch was no longer just a place of work. It was a home, a sanctuary, and a symbol of the life they had built together. In the quiet evenings, sitting together on the porch or by the fire, they reflected on the year they had shared. They had learned that life's true meaning comes from connection, trust, and shared experience. And while the future would undoubtedly bring new challenges, they were ready to face them together, strengthened by the bond that had grown naturally and beautifully over time.
Tom and Kaya's story was not about grand gestures or dramatic events. It was about everyday life, shared with someone who understood you, respected you, and made you feel complete.
It was about love that grew slowly, steadily, and deeply, an enduring connection that could withstand the tests of life and continue to flourish, quietly and powerfully, for years to come. And so, as the ranch lay under a soft blanket of snow, with the animals safely cared for and the fire crackling warmly in the house, Tom and Kaya sat side by side, hands intertwined, hearts connected. They had found in each other a companion, a partner, and a friend, someone to share not just the ranch, but life itself. And in that shared life, they had discovered the truest form of happiness,